Thank you, Madam President. I'm afraid the Ledbetter bill is another example that the majority here in the Senate really doesn't understand the American economy, or how businesses really create jobs, or how freedom works for all of us to create a better quality of life. Recessions are caused by uncertainty. This bill creates more uncertainty for the very businesses that we need to create the jobs and to keep the jobs that we have in our country today. Why would we pass a bill or even be talking about it in the middle of a recession that many have said is the worst we've ever seen in our lifetime? This bill will also create a lot of unintended consequences that will do the exact opposite of what it's intended to do. I was in business for well over 20 years before I came to Congress. And once you make or create more liability for hiring a woman, or knowing that that liability is going to exist for years, employers are going to figure out a way to get around that. This is more likely to discourage the employment and the promotion of women because it creates an indefinite liability. It seems that a lot of my colleagues have never been in business themselves. I remember being in the advertising business. I was one of 15 account executives, and I was about in the middle as far as salary. I had men and women who made less than I did. I had men and women who made more than I did. Some who made more than I did had less experience. But because the clients or some other factor, some other intangible made them worth more than I was, they were paid more. And the same with those who made less. I was younger and in some cases less experienced than some of the men and women who made less, but I had demonstrated that I could help our company make a profit more than they had. The market was deciding our salaries. There's no way that anyone in this Senate or any government bureaucrat or federal judge could come in and say that there was discrimination because I was paid less than someone who was making more money, or the same with someone who was making less than I was. For us to intervene here and to create a permanent liability is only going to create more uncertainty, and this is not what we need to do with our businesses. So this whole bill should not even be considered now. But I have an amendment that gets at some of the issues that have been talked about with this bill, about fairness and about discrimination. One of the biggest forms of discrimination in this country today is when we force an American worker to join a union. My amendment is a right-to-work amendment. Right now in this country, we have a federal law that forces American workers to join a union. Now, states can pass a right-to-work law, as my state, South Carolina, has, to protect their workers. But this has proved very difficult for many states with powerful union bosses and union lobbies. My amendment, which is a national right-to-work amendment, would restore the right of every American not to join a union. It would eliminate the federal requirement that workers pay union dues. Now, we're getting ready to hear from some opponents of this bill that will use some very convoluted logic to defend their position. The same people who support federal labor laws, including wage requirements that supersede state laws, will argue that my amendment violates state rights. Removing a federal mandate on states could only violate states' rights in the minds of politicians who have lost touch with our constitutional moorings. My amendment is not about states' rights. It is not about federal rights. It's not about business rights. My amendment restores basic, unalienable individual rights. No law, federal or state, should force an American to join a union in order to get a job in this country. No law, state or federal, should allow an American worker to be fired because he or she does not want to join a union. This is about individual rights. There should not be a federal law that discriminates against workers who choose not to join a union. This is about fairness. and about stopping basic discrimination that is sponsored by this federal government. I urge my colleagues to vote for this Right to Work amendment. It is very consistent with the theme of this Ledbetter bill. It's more likely to eliminate discrimination than the Ledbetter bill itself.